What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. The first time I tried recording this video, the sample rate and the frequency was all off and I sounded like the evil character from some movie. So this is take 2 of this video and I'm going to show you how I made 3,500 bucks in 1 week with one AI automation. Now I did this by solving one scoped problem by having one clean build, one proposal and one signature. There wasn't a retainer or an ongoing management fee and there wasn't a 6-month enterprise slog either. Now, there was just a specific thing that was broken in this specific business and a specific fix that made it all go away. Now, this doc is the story of that deal and the theory underneath it. Why small, tightly scoped AI automation deals are the single best move for anybody starting or scaling an agency in 2026. And if you were trying to figure out whether to chase big retainers, contracts, or stack smaller fixed wins together, this is for you. Now, before we jump into everything, I want to show you guys this cool little graphic I saw during the week. Now, this represents everybody on the planet, all 8.1 billion people, and their exposure to AI. So if you're watching this video, you're probably in the green already because you probably know something about AI and you're already ahead of like 90 to 80% of people. Then if you actually pay for a subscription, whether it's ChatGPT Pro, Claude Pro, or Gemini, you're in the yellow. And if you use it for coding, like Claude Code, or you're a developer yourself and you use AI, like Codex, then you're in this little tiny little red box here, which means you are in the top 0.04% of the population, which is pretty crazy to think of. Now, I wanted to bring this to your guys' attention because I even catch myself sometimes working with AI all the time. You really forget how many people just don't use AI. And when I saw this graph, it really put it into perspective about how much ahead we are compared to the average Joe who has no idea about AI. Think about who hasn't even used it, let alone use it once and just asked it to write a funny joke. So just something cool to put into perspective. Now, if you're new here, my name is Dominic Schwantes. I'm the founder of Workflows, a B2B AI lead generation agency. I document everything I do in real time, the campaigns, the results, and the systems. And what you'll find in this document is based on what actually works, not just some theory. So the deal we're going to be talking about today was signed in April 2026 with a commercial construction company based here in Brisbane. I cannot show the proposal on camera, unfortunately, for confidentiality reasons, but everything I'm going to walk through today is exactly what happened. So, a bit about the client and the problem. So, the client is a commercial builder running multiple active projects across Southeast Queensland. They operate a modern cloud stack, so job management in one system, accounting in another, and document signing in the other. Most construction businesses of this size are running a mess of disconnected tools and paper workflows, but fortunately, this wasn't one of them, which is why this deal was possible. Now, the actual issue was that every supplier invoice arriving in their accounts inbox had to be manually typed into their job management system. I'm sure you've heard something similar like this before. Something would open the PDF, read it, work out which active job is it related to, open the AP voucher screen, create a voucher, and type in the supplier amount, date, and payment terms and job allocation, and then route it for approval. Now, obviously, anyone doing data entry in 2026 is totally unnecessary because that is very easily automated. Now, it was a small task that took a few minutes per invoice, but they get invoices constantly across many jobs, and the person doing it was their finance manager, who should not be spending half her day on data entry, particularly because her salary, yikes, is probably at least this. Should not be spending, or a business owner should not be paying that much for data entry. They're literally getting scammed. Now, the scope I proposed: an email trigger that watches the accounts inbox, and then an AI extraction step that reads the PDF and pulls out all the supplier information, the amount, the date, and any address or project reference on the document. A matching step that cross references the attached address against the active job list and allocates the invoice to the correct job. And then a voucher creation step that writes the matched result back into the job management system with all the fields populated. And then finally, just for safekeeping, an error handling path for any AI that cannot handle or cannot confidently match it to an existing job. Then it just emails it to the finance manager with the pre-filled data so that she can select it manually and then move on. So it turns like a whole day full of stuff into like a couple of seconds if she needs it. Now, a bit about the price and the timeline. So the total cost of this automation was 3,500 Australian dollars. It was a fixed price. It was split between 50% upfront and 50% at launch date, which is like the most fairest way to go about it. Usually because the customer feels like they're putting one foot in and they can put the other foot in the door once they've paid and once they've actually seen that result come to life. It removes the risk and puts equal amount of risk on both parties. We offer 30 days of post-launch support included, which is usually a good thing to throw in there, and an optional $150 maintenance fee if they want it. There's no no there's no push for them to actually go for that. And the timeline was 1 to 2 weeks to go live. Now the proposal itself was 8 pages, and I sent it on Friday, and it came back signed within the following week. Now, why the deal happened? Now the cold email wasn't clever. It identified a specific pain point, referenced a specific tool that they were using, and asked a specific question. It didn't promise some magical AI transformation, and it didn't use words like synergy or leverage. It read like an email from one operator to another. Now, the discovery call was short. I asked what the finance manager's week looked like, what she did every morning, what she would do with an extra hour in a day, and the invoice process that came up inside the first 10 minutes, which shows you that if you act like a consultant and actually come in as a partner as opposed to some AI automation guy that they can find on Fiverr, they will literally just splurt and just tell you all of their problems within the first 5 minutes, which means then you can take that valuable information and pitch the next 5 automations, which we'll get to later. Now, once I did that, I just stopped asking questions and just let them tell me what their problem was. Now, the proposal was built inside 48 hours of that first call. There wasn't a generic template. I referenced their exact tool stack, their exact process, and the exact step we were removing. Now, if you guys are smart, you know how to do this without the generic AI slop, wink, wink, because Claude can help do it for you customly every single time. I think I've made a video about it, but if I haven't, let me know in the comments and I will create a video about that. Now, small deals close because there is nothing worth pushing back on. A 3.5K deal gets signed by the person who reads the email, but a $30,000 deal gets routed through procurement teams, legal finance, pilot phase, and then a committee. Now, one closes in a week and the other closes in 9 months, if at all, which is why I tell you guys to stay away from, particularly, things like government and B2B SaaS, particularly those big companies, because of those procurement cycles that take ages to get through. Now, this is the 5-step framework that I would guarantee you guys, or you should be able to go through and tick off every single item with the answer of yes to actually proceed. Now, this is what I do personally before any sort of AI automation deal. I go through these questions. So the first thing is this problem a single and repeatable task, or is it a system? AI for sales is a system, but AI that reads invoices and puts them in the right place is a task. And I only take the task version at this price point. The second thing I ask is, does the work sit inside of 1 or 2 tools, or does it sprawl across 5 different ones? Now, the invoice deal works because it started in an inbox and ends in a job management system. It's 2 simple tools and one direction of the flow. The third is, is the cost of being rung low? Now, AI has a natural human checkpoint at approval, but deals where AI errors cost the client real money or reputation damage are not small scope deals by any stretch of the imagination. The fourth is there a clear measurable outcome, i.e., minutes per invoice, minutes per week, that are both accountable and both reportable, which is what I was saying before. The easiest way to sell this, particularly this specific automation, is literally say how much, or ask the person that you're pitching to, the business owner, how much is that person earning who's currently doing the task? So because it was the account manager, it was not a low ticket or a low tier salary. If it was $50 an hour, all you have to do is multiply that by how many hours per week they're spending, and then multiply that by the year, which equals dollar signs for you, because you come in with a one-stop shop, one-time fee, and they would happily pay that one time, whether it's 3-5 grand, to replace this, because she could be doing way higher value tasks than stupid data entry. The fifth thing that you should be asking is, can I build this in 2 to 3 weeks without heroics or having to invent some novel technique? Because if you do, that's not a 3.5K dollar deal at all. Now, the small scope means that you've done something very similar to this before as well, so you shouldn't be having to really build something from scratch. Now, if you answer yes to all 5 of these, it is a simple fixed fee scope deal, and it will most certainly only take you 2-3 weeks max. Now, let's have a look at why small scope wins in particular. Now, everyone selling AI agency content right now is pushing these like heavy retainer models, 10 grand a month, 50 grand a month. Replace your salary by literally stacking 3 clients together. Now, the idea that you should start with no case studies, no referrals, and no proof of work, and charge based on like nothing, is the most expensive advice costing you on YouTube and preventing you from getting started. These smaller scope deals are better for 4 reasons. The first is that they actually close. So the founder with a specific pain point and a sensible price in front of them will sign. A founder being asked to commit to a 6-month AI transformation is not likely to do so because of the big commitment up front. The second thing is that they actually deliver. A 2-week build scope to one task has very few places to fail, versus a 3-month platform that has 100 other components to the build. The third thing is that they actually compound. A client who paid $3,500 for the first one will pay 6,000 for the next one, and then it begins to compound and compound, and then they trust you more, and then they refer you. So if you think about this in terms of a web, and you think of the client, and you think of the first deal being 3.5K, and it goes well, and it's a very short, tightened scope. Similarly, like how if you do a cold email engagement, it's a minimum 60-day engagement, and you don't go past 90 days, particularly if it's a first sort of service that you've pitched them. Then think about all the upsells you can pitch, particularly if it goes well. So I can think that's why I said to you actually in the beginning, let the client just blurt out everything that is currently wrong with their business or that's annoying them, because they're literally telling you what they're willing to pay for. So the first things I found out when this business owner was telling me was there's a 5K deal there, there's a 7K thing there, and there was a big thing, like a big dashboard that was easily 15 to 20 grand worth. Now, the good part is that he also told me was that this is a whole industry problem. A lot of construction guys in this industry use these same handful of platforms. So where my mind thought was I can make a SaaS out of this because we know how to code with AI helping us. We don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on development teams. I can easily pitch that SaaS to other construction companies for 500 to $1,000 a month a pop. Now, I know I can pitch that because construction is a very profitable industry and these companies are doing a lot of money a year. Now, 500 to $1,000 a month to have everything in one centralized dashboard that they don't have to be, running over here, running over there to try and find the information is worth it to them. And times that by however many people you could pitch it to. Now, luckily, this client that I have is very formidable in the industry and is well respected, so his word carries a lot of weight, which is why if I was to actually build this prototype and show it to him, which I'm planning on doing, I might show you guys that in the coming weeks with a video. That's why it would be very valuable to get his take so he can say, yes, that's great, that's not great. And then you can actually incentivize said person, whether it's this owner or another business owner in any other industry. Hey, I'm going to give you $500 as a referral fee for every single person you get on this platform. But we're getting ahead of ourselves with the SaaS idea. But that was just an example how you can actually, what is that, 15.5K, even if you remove this SaaS idea, for example, for a minute. Even if you take the original 3.5K plus the other 12K of deals, that means you've made the LTV of that client 15K just off of the initial setup. 15.5K, my bad. But that's just off of the initial phone call. Now imagine if you keep doing work with that client and you build a relationship with them, which leads perfectly into my next point, which is that you don't want to be building a transactional relationship with the client. This is not good. You want to actually build a normal relationship with them so that it becomes of you help them out, which is actually why in the beginning, even before they actually signed the contract, I really maintained a lot of goodwill because I was helping them with stuff I didn't even charge them for. For example, I helped mass send their email signatures out to every single account in their company, as well as helping them organize a phone book, which was an easy Google account setup. But all that to say is that a lot of goodwill was created up front by me not actually asking for anything, just saying, how can I help? And they said, oh, I had this problem and I had this problem. And I'm like, well, that's pretty easy for me to do. I'm not going to charge you for it. I just want to help you out. And a lot of goodwill and what is it called? The law of reciprocity. That's it. Law of reciprocity. That actually helped create all of this stuff right here and will help to create. It got this going and will help to get this, and probably even this going as well. And if not, if it doesn't turn into this, well, it'll at least turn into this. So I hope that demonstrated to you guys all the value of actually showing reciprocity up front and people actually being or feeling indebted to you to actually repay that back because you've shown kindness and a lot of value up front without getting anything in return. And then they feel obliged to return the favor. So all that to say is that if you start small and you actually show a lot of value, it can turn into this plus even this as well, which could be 30K plus. Now, I didn't include that just to be conservative, but just to illustrate the point to you guys that is actually what's possible. Yes, and as I was saying, that the Deal 5 actually shows you the pain points repeated by different businesses with different stacks. Now, the real product is the roadmap, and the market will tell you that just by talking to different business owners. Now, if you are just starting out and you don't have any case studies, a good way to actually go about it is just to call business owners up on the phone. And you could even, if you don't want to say, hi, I'm a new business owner starting out, literally just say you're a high school student doing business and you need to talk to them for an assignment. I don't know one single person who's tried this. If they pose as a college student or a high school student, they usually always get talked to by business owners and they're happy to talk to them to give them the information that they need because they just seem like kids, right? Now, what most people get wrong, there is a pattern I see consistently with people starting AI agencies. They spend 3 months building a polished landing page, fixing and creating their nice logo and email signature, which none of that matter, by the way, a productized offer, a Notion dashboard, a tier structure, a sales deck, and a bunch of other automations inside of their own business. And then they start doing the cold outreach, wondering why nobody's buying from them. But they've literally built a business for a business that doesn't even exist yet. Now, the first thing you need to do to get a paid client, or is to get a paid client. You don't need a pipeline, you don't need a brand, you don't need a funnel. You just need a client who has given you money in exchange for a working automation. Now, the other thing that people get wrong is pricing up front. They read some article about a 50 grand retainer and decide that that is the floor. Meanwhile, the founder that they just cold emailed runs a 10-person business and was never going to pay that to begin with. The right price for the first 5 deals is whatever closes in a week and the funds that actually change and funds the next one. Sorry. Then you actually have 5 case studies and then you know what to charge from there. So, like we talked about in the other videos, the biggest friend that we have in business is what? I can't draw. I'm going to draw this in caps because of how important this is. Data. The same thing that I said, if you go back and watch all of my cold email videos, I'm constantly saying, I just sent volume to begin with. Why? Because I needed the numbers to actually inform my decisions about what to change. How can you actually say, oh, that variable needs to change or that variable needs to change if you don't have any data? Which is why I urge you guys to be sending a minimum of 500 to 1,000 cold emails a day. Because if you're not sending at least 500, you're not getting any data. Just say, because we don't send on weekends, obviously. If you just take a working week, if you're only sending 100 per day, that's 500 a week. Meanwhile, that's like your minimum daily send should be. So you're sending 2,500 a week to 5,000 a week versus 500 a week. And particularly as that starts to compound, the difference is completely not even close. Now, let's have a look at how to find these deals in your pipeline specifically. If you're already cold emailing, the deals are already in your inbox. You're just not scoping them. Now, when a founder applies with an interest or with interest, do not lead about like your services. Lead with a call about building rapport. Ask them what takes time in their business, what frustrates them. Remember, it's like what we said earlier. It's like you're a doctor sitting there with your notepad, actually noting down what the patient's problem is, because that's what you are, right? You are a consultant. You're not some, freelance snob that you can find off Fiverr and pay like $100 to. Ask what their most expensive employee is doing with their Tuesday morning. Now, this is a really pivotal question. And this is one that I actually asked in the call, which informed this entire web up here. It informed these two, actually, which is going to be my next upsell. But that just goes to show you that pitching and actually asking these important questions about what the most expensive employee is doing is how you can correlate to cash, like we said up before. Where was that? Yes, it was here. This concept here is literally in a nutshell, I should say, the point of me asking that question. Where am I? I've lost my spot. Here I am. So the reason why I ask this is because you can literally say that this equals cash in your pocket, right? If they say my most expensive employee is doing data entry and it's costing $50 an hour, that's like should be alarm bells going off in your head, like ding, ding, ding. That's cash in your pocket. Because obviously you pitch them a no-brainer of, hey, you pay me a one-time fee of 10, 20 grand, whatever it is, and you never have to pay that again. And you can actually allow your employees to be doing high-value tasks and more worthy of what you're paying them really at $50 an hour, as opposed to this stupid data entry stuff which AI can do on its own. Now, most of the answers will be the shape of a small scope AI deal, particularly when you're starting out. Now, once you hear one, don't try and expand on it. Don't wrap 3 more problems on the same proposal. Start with one simple thing, like we said before, and then build up from there, I should say. Now, make sure you price it fairly and then send the proposal. Now, this is really key within 48 hours. You want your proposal to be the top of mind after you've just spoken to the prospect and make sure it gets signed. Now, the expansions happens after the delivery, not before. Now, if you are already cold emailing, the shortest path to your first small scope deal is to write 10 emails today. I'll come back to that because that limit's crazy low, to businesses in an industry that you personally understand, and then ask one specific question about one specific process. You don't need volume, you need specificity. Now, I say that to say, and I say all that to say, is because particularly when you're targeting one niche, whether it's construction, landscaping, staffing and recruitment, you actually want to speak like them and understand their problem. Now, you need to ask some questions to actually be able to do that if you haven't worked in that industry personally. But obviously, as you know, because we spoke about before, 10 emails is what AI can spin up in 5 seconds. This is just to merely gather information about the industry. Now, I would actually recommend calling because it's probably better to gain that information as opposed to someone writing an email back. It's much easier for someone to spend 30 seconds on the phone saying, hey, this is our biggest problem, X, Y, and Z, right? Now, This is the 5-question small scope checklist that you should be saying yes to, or you should be able to say yes to every single one of these 5 things before you do a deal. Now, is this problem a single repeatable task, not a system? Does this work sit inside 2 or 1 or 2 tools, or does it sprawl across 5? Is the cost of being wrong low, or with a natural human checkpoint? Is there a clear measurable outcome? And can you build it in 2 to 3 weeks max without inventing anything new? Now, if all 5 are yes, then it is a small fee, small scope deal. Price it in the range of your market that your market supports and send the proposal within 48 hours. Now, if the answer is no, then it's a bigger engagement than you initially thought, and it needs different scoping, different pricing, and a completely different conversation. Now, let's have a look at the scope deal proposal structure. Now, this is something that most people get wrong, but this is the rough structure, what I use for a fixed fee AI automation proposal. Make sure you keep it short. 8 pages is more than enough. Like, think about it. Most small business owners don't care about the whole about us crap that most corporate people put in their proposals. Like, it's just AI slop, really. Now, the first thing that you should be talking about is the brief situation analysis. So, briefly describe the client's business and the specific process you're planning on fixing in plain language. Reference any tools that they're currently using to show that you actually understand that you know what they do. Now, next is the actual proposal. So, break into the build into the number deliverables, and each one is a concrete step, like the trigger, the extraction, the matching logic, and the write back, and the error handling sequence. Big emphasis on this. Do not use like AI jargon because I don't understand what that means. Use plain language. Now the next is the process and the timeline. So like week 1 kickoff, week 1 to week 2 is the build, and then week 2 is the testing, and week 2 to 3 is the live stage. Make sure you outline the expectations really clearly. Now, this feeds lovely into this point here, is about joint accountabilities. What you commit to do, what the client commits to doing, and this protects both sides and prevents the scope from creeping up. Now, I say this to say is in the very first couple of deals that I didn't do this properly, which was on me. And I had a lot of difficulty dealing with clients because they weren't responding within the amount of time that I needed them to respond to, which is why now I put in every single proposal that I do that the client must respond within 24 to 48 hours. Because if I'm contacting them and I need critical information and we've set the timeline as 2 to 3 weeks, and then they get up at me for not finishing within that time, and it's like, well, you weren't available for at least 48 hours, pushing us back and like preventing us from doing our job, then that's a problem. So it's really pivotal that that is something you establish from day one, that you must respond within ideally 24 hours so that we can continue to build this in the set time that we established. The next is commercial terms. So creating a fixed fee, 50% upfront and 50% at completion. Now this is the fairest, most risk-free structure that I found personally. So they put 50% upfront, so both people have an equal amount of risk, and then once it's done and they approve, then they pay the remaining 50%. We also include 30 days post-launch support, and we also give the option to add a low-cost monthly maintenance of like $150. Now, that is not required. It's just an option if they so want it. The next is the terms and conditions. So the scope, the IP, the data and privacy, confidentiality, independent contractor status, blah, 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 all the usual stuff. Make sure it's just one page. It doesn't need to be that long and strenuous, but just to have it in writing is great. So in summary, send it, get the signature, build the thing, deliver it, ask for the next deal, and something I forgot to add, make it into a case study and also get that testimonial. These two things are basically the same thing, but they help you charge more for the next time and help build your credibility. So the testimonial, to actually distinguish between the two, is to actually get them on a call, whether it's a Google Meet, a Zoom, to actually get them to ask some questions, just how you would say, how was your experience with us? Basically get them to sell you for you, basically. And then the case study is just to formally document every single thing that happened, like I'm doing here. This is a case study. Document everything formally, say what worked, what was involved in it. So next time someone says, have you done this before? You can just point them to the documented case study, whether it's a YouTube video like this or a PDF that documents everything that you did and the person you did it for. It's much easier to do, or to point them to the direction of the document or the asset, as opposed to having to resell and re-explain and go through all that stuff again. So to summarize all of that, the small scope deal is the most underrated move in AI automation right now. The people on YouTube telling you to taste $50,000 retainers have either never closed one before, or they forgot what it took to get there because it was so long ago. Now, one clean build with one specific problem and one signature in a week is much easier than trying to chase these huge numbers. Now, that is the shape of the first deal and the fifth deal maybe, but most deals in between that. Now, stop building the business for a business that doesn't actually exist. There's no point building out all these systems when you don't actually have a client. Find the task, scope the task out properly, price it fairly, and deliver it cleanly, and then ask for the next one. That is literally the entire game. So if you're a business owner and you need more clients, that's what we do. We run done for you cold email. Our campaigns are hitting 22% positive reply rates right now. If you want us to do the same for your business, the link to apply is in the description below. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new daily videos. And I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's video.